fine. Are you ready? Okay. I'd like to welcome you to the March 24th meeting of the Tarrant County College Board of Trustees. Welcome everyone back from spring break. I'm sorry, we're probably a little bit still on spring break time, so I apologize. We're just a little bit tardy for getting started. So again, want to welcome everyone. Welcome folks back from, I hope you were able to get a really good break and have some family time and disconnect for a little bit and ready to come back re-energized. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. So do we have any public comments? No public comments, Mr. Gates? We'll go ahead and go on to item number 3, board business items and announcements. We'll start out with 3A, consideration and approval of ratification of appointment of Dr. Elva LeBlanc as acting chancellor and assignment pay, and that's going to be with Ms. Carol Bracken.
Good evening, President Ayala.
Good evening.
Acting Chancellor Giovannini, trustees.
She is not Giovannini.
LeBlanc.
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 That's okay.
You want to start over again?
She is human. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Now you know Carol is human,
Yes.
and we're paying attention, Carol.
We are, Carol. You've got her. That's right. Go ahead, Carol.
Last month, at the February board meeting, the board made the decision to appoint Dr. LeBlanc as the acting chancellor of the college. The staff has come to you this month requesting a resolution ratifying that decision and also approving a stipend for her during the pendency of her service as acting chancellor. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Bracken? Okay. All right. We have a motion from Mr. Greenhill and a second from Mr. Barr. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. So consideration and approval of resolution to adopt a redistricting timeline and criteria. Ms. Bracken.
Last month, you met Lisa McBride and made the acquaintance again of Jesse Gaines, who have been our able counsel with regard to redistricting and that process. And we have Ms. McBride is joining us with a presentation. Gina?
Yes, I'm here. Can board members see and hear me?
We can hear you.
We hear you, Ms. McBride. Hold on just a
Hang
second.
on. We're getting there. There you are. I will turn this over to Ms. McBride and Mr. Gaines.
Thank you.
Colleague from our Dallas office, Ashley White, joining me tonight. It's a pleasure to be back before you. And with your permission, I'll go ahead and share my screen, which has our presentation tonight. Can you see my PowerPoint? It says redistricting timeline and criteria.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. So Jesse and I are going to tag team tonight. What we want to come out of at the end of the day is make sure that board members understand the timeline and the criteria, which are the map drawing principles essentially for any proposed maps that bring the college back into balance in terms of its population in response to the census data. So in your materials, you should have a copy of our presentation, but you should also have a copy of the resolution that we are recommending you adopt tonight. That resolution lays out the map drawing principles as well as has as an attachment the specific timeline. And this proposed timeline is really based on our best practices from doing this kind of work over several decades in terms of making sure that we have an appropriate amount of trustee and public input, but still meeting our obligation to complete this process by the statutory deadline contained in state law. So with that introduction, I'll go on to my next slide. So last time when we met, we did have a brief legal overview about what redistricting is. I'm not going to go back over that in detail, just though briefly to make sure that we're all on the same page and using the same vocabulary. It really is the process by which the boundaries of elective units in the college systems, it's a single member districts, are periodically redrawn in response to changes in population. So we are redrawing the boundaries between single member districts, but what that pragmatically means is that we're moving population into and out of single member districts in order to more equalize the population across the college system. And the number that we use to do that comes from census data, and it's the total population. So we're counting adults as well as those who are under 18, those who are citizens, those who are not, those that are voting age, those that are not voting age. We use that figure to measure whether or not we've equalized population. We'll also talk a little bit tonight, one of the criteria that you will use is not to dilute minority voting strength. And with respect to that, we don't use the total population number, we use citizen voting age population, because that's a smaller subset of individuals that actually are eligible to exercise the right to vote. So when we're examining whether we have diluted that strength, we don't use the total population figure, we use a combination of voting age, because that's getting us a little closer to that subset of individuals that actually exercises the right to vote, as well as citizen voting age, which is principally the figure that is used. So what has to be done as part of this reaction every 10 years to population data that is released? Well, we went over this kind of in detail at our last meeting, but I want to give another 30,000 foot view. The first step is for board members to understand the legal requirements and the deadline. What legally triggers our responsibility to rebalance is if the difference in total population of your most populous single member district and your least populous single member district is greater than 10%. If that is true, based on your new census data, then we have to rebalance, bring each single member district to more equal population. And as a little cheat sheet, what we're really doing is we're looking at your average size, average single member district size based on total population. And we're trying to bring each single member district closer to that average size. They don't have to be exactly that average size. Exact equal total population is not required, but substantially equal. And the mathematical formula in Texas for that is whether or not, as a system, the difference between your most and least populous single member district is greater than 10%. So understand legal requirements, what triggers the duty, and your deadlines. We've got to complete this process 90 days or 3 months before the first election where you can implement this. So we're talking about May of 2023. So this requires us to complete this by February of 2023. The problem with waiting to that statutory deadline is that statutory deadline is sandwiched between the first day for a candidate to file for a place on the ballot and the last day for a candidate to file for a place on the ballot. January of 2023, mid-January would be the first day to file. So under our proposed timeline that we're presenting to you tonight, we actually complete this process by December of 2022. So come the new year in 2023, when candidates are looking to file for a place on the ballot, they know the specific boundaries they need to live within in order to be eligible to run on the ballot. So after understanding the legal process, which we started last time and we're continuing this meeting, and our next time that we meet together, we'll do a little bit more legal education. We've got to determine what the redistricting process is going to look like, whether this is going to be full board work, a board subcommittee, a combination of full board and subcommittee, or whether it's going to involve a citizen task force or some combination of citizens on a task force with board members that report back to the board. I've seen this process work effectively under any of those types of processes. What is the driving force typically about whether you use one or another of those type of processes is the amount of time that you have. Involving a subcommittee or a solely citizen task force that has to report back to the board obviously entails a little bit more time, because that subcommittee and or task force has to meet, develop recommendations, meet with the community, but then all of that information has to be transmitted back to the board. The board has to digest it and make certain action steps or decision steps before going on to the next step in the process. So it's looking at the time, the amount of time that you have to complete the process and determining which of those three models is going to work best for you. But all of those models satisfy legal requirements. And under all of those models, you could meet your statutory deadline. Under some of those models, you might be a little pressured or rushed to complete the process. But that's really step two, is determining what that process is going to be and how we're going to solicit trustee and community input. We have a suggested mechanism in the timeline that we're proposing tonight, and I'll go over that and where the different opportunities for trustee and community input lie.
This is Bill Green. I have a question. Just while you're talking about the process, does anyone in the room know what process we used last 10 years ago?
10 years ago, we didn't have a formal committee or anything. We just,
We just did it.
Right.
Okay.
We went through a process, but we didn't have a formal committee.
I just wanted to.
Now, in 2000, we did have a formal committee.
Okay, thank you.
If I get my years straight.
Any other questions?
That's right. It was the board itself. Right. The board itself.
Any more questions?
No, I simply said, we had a formal committee last time. It was called the Board of Trustees.
Right. That's right.
Got it. The next step and what we're doing tonight is establishing the criteria, because once we know that we have to rebalance, what we will be doing is bringing a series of iterative maps. And the way we evaluate whether one map is better than the other, or announce our support or lack of support for a map, is using these map drawing principles. They help us to stay within the legal boundaries of what we are legally permitted to discuss. Then we get the demographic analysis, college-wide, as well as within each single member district. On our proposed timeline for you, you would be getting that analysis in April, so that we know, number one, has it been triggered? And it has been, because there's been so much growth in the area. And number two, what is our most populous, what is our least populous single member district, and whether it's gonna just involve a simple population exchange between those two, which I doubt. Typically what happens in these situations is we've got population in one part of the system that is growing and less population in another part of the system. And it's a cascade effect, because we've got to move population across the system in order to equalize population. Because once you get the absolute largest and smallest single member districts back into balance, then your next smallest and your next largest, we've got to look at and see whether that's within 10% or not. And if it's not, we've got to keep working. So it's got to be a 10% differential system-wide. So frequently that causes a cascade effect. So in April, you will get that demographic analysis with initial plans coming to you in May and June, and completing as well in August. But we'll go over that timeline in a little bit more detail. Then we get public comment on the plans, and best practice is really not to wait until the end of the iterative process to get public comment. So you will see in the proposed timeline that we're presenting to you tonight that we are proposing different check-in points where we get public comment, and then a final public hearing at the end of the process, so that we make sure we capture all public comment. That's probably an effective, robust mechanism for receiving public comment. And then, of course, the final thing that you have to do is, in fact, adopt a plan by the appropriate timeline. So the next thing I'd like to go over is the proposed timeline, and you can look at the proposed timeline either on the screen as part of our presentation, but you also should have a separate handout that has that timeline as well. And I just want to walk through that. There are indicated meeting dates, which are in black, and then action steps between meetings, which are in red, that have icons by each one of those action steps. So going back to the last time we met in February, we met at a regular board meeting, and we did a legal overview of the process, the criteria, and the timeline. Tonight, we're meeting again for a continued legal overview, and the board, hopefully, at the end of our time together, will adopt the redistricting criteria, process, and timeline. Then in April, either at a regular board meeting or a special board meeting dedicated specifically to redistricting, that's to the board's discretion, we'll do a little bit additional legal overview because it's so important that the board is aware of the law that's applicable to this process. But the real key part of that next meeting is receiving your census data. So your demographer will plot your current boundaries, and based on those current boundaries and the 2020 census, give you information college-wide about your demographics and specifically about each single member district so that we can begin discussing as a team, what is an initial map going to look like? How many single member districts is it likely to impact? And where is population growing? And where is population, although growing, not growing as fast, so that it's causing this differential that's making us have to rebalance. So we'll have that discussion at your April meeting. Between your April meeting and your May meeting, our proposal on this timeline is that we update your website with the presentations that we've made, the legal presentations, as well as the census data, so the public can follow along with us. At your May meeting, the board will receive and comment on some initial maps that bring you back into balance. So comply with that 10% rule, but also comply with the map drawing principles that you adopt tonight. And so at that meeting, you'll have an opportunity to test those maps against those principles and say what you like or don't like, using those principles kind of as a report card for each of the maps that are presented to you. Between your May and June meeting, whether that's at a regular board meeting or a special meeting determined by the board, what we're proposing be done is that the website be updated with those initial maps so that the public can follow along, and that a public comment mechanism be opened up on your website so that individuals can actually submit written comments on each of those initial maps. And what we would do is hold individual meetings, if it's the board's desire, between board members, the legal team, and demographer, so we can receive some of your comments that way, as well as at the June board meeting, where we would present the next round of maps based on board member comments and public comments that we've received through your website. And so at your June meeting, you'd get a summary of all the comments received, trustee and public, and then we would go over the next round of maps that are based on those comments. So it's iterative. Those maps would be a progression from the initial maps, and what's driving that progression is board member comments and public comments. And then between your June and August meeting, so we take July off, our proposed action steps would be to update the website with the second round of maps and open up a mechanism on your website so the public can comment on that second round of maps that were presented to the board. At your August board meeting, what would be summarized for you is all public and trustee comments on that second round of maps. And then those comments would drive a third round of maps for you guys to see at your August meeting. And then between your August and September meeting, what we are proposing happen is that your website once again be updated with the third round of maps and a mechanism be opened up to receive public comment regarding that third round of maps, so that all of that information could be summarized to you at your September meeting, so that you can continue deliberating on that third round of maps and narrowing down, because now you've had an initial round of maps, a second round of maps, and a third round of maps, narrowing it down based on the criteria adopted tonight to 1 or 2 maps. And then between September and November, those 1 or 2 maps are posted on your website. We also have an expert look at those maps with respect to any issue regarding retrogression or vote dilution, so that we can get the green light there. And then what we are proposing is, right now, the public has been commenting in writing. Now we give them an opportunity to comment orally to us, holding meetings, whether in the 4 quadrants of the college or in each single member district, whatever is the board's preference. So holding those public meetings, community meetings between September and November to receive any additional public comment, but also in November at a regular or special board meeting to hold one final public meeting at a central location where you normally conduct your board meetings, and have all public comment received to that point summarized for the board, so the board can decide if it needs to make any additional tweaks. Those tweaks would be made between your November and December meeting, and then we would conclude in December with the board taking final action after having had 3 rounds of maps, having heard from the public both in writing and as a result of a formal public hearing, and as a result of informal community meetings held either in the 4 quadrants of the college or in each single member district. So that we are providing multiple opportunities for both trustee comments, one-on-one comments, board meeting comments, public hearing comments, as well as multiple mechanisms for public comment, written comment, community meeting comments, and formal public hearing comments. And so that is the proposed timeline and process. And I'll stop there to take any questions.
Again, another historical history question for me. 10 years ago, how did we handle the public meetings? Did we have it one place meeting, or do you remember if we went to different districts?
We published it on the website, and we also had the various maps at the various colleges, and we had them so that people could come in and told folks to go in and offer comment, and also people could submit written comments or submit maps if they wanted to also.
So we didn't actually have meetings, I mean, in-person meetings because I don't recall that.
No,
so
we didn't.
Just
we just had the
in the various. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
And we adopted the final plan after the board, had discussions. Right.
I'm just trying to remember.
Right.
Bye-bye.
And it's not required to have individual community meetings. I do recommend having at least one formal public hearing, so that we can document any public comment in addition to written comment.
Okay.
Any other questions on the timeline itself? Well, now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jesse Gaines, to begin going over the criteria that we discussed at the last meeting. Remember, there are 9 criteria that we're proposing you adopt that really are the guardrails for judging any maps that are brought to you that bring the college back into a balance with respect to near equal population in each of its single member districts. So we're going to unpack each one of those and talk about them a little bit more. And then you have a resolution that we're hopeful that you will adopt regarding not only the process and timeline, but also this criteria. So Jesse, if you wouldn't mind starting kind of going over the 9 criteria and then a deep dive with respect to the first couple of criteria.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor and a privilege to be here at the Tarrant County College talking about redistricting. I feel like my whole life has been evolved around redistricting, not only with this college, but with the city and various other entities that I have worked on throughout my professional career. As Ms. McBride said, the total deviation between the largest and the smallest, it has to be within 10%. We can't have one district over 10% and one less than 10%. They must be within that 10% deviation. And near equal population, that is always a goal, near equal population. Compact and contiguous. Compact, how is that defined? How are we compact now? Are we contiguous now? We are compact and we are contiguous. You cannot be contiguous. What that means is you can't skip over, you can't skip and tie your district in somewhere else. It has to be connected. You have to always be able to connect the districts. Connected is the meaning. You have to have it connected. If you look at our districts now, if you look at the one in the southern part of Tarrant County, that district connects with the southern part of southern part of Fort Worth, and it goes over to Arlington, picks up some of Arlington. That district, now, some people ask, well, how is that district compact? It's very compact in the sense of it has equal, when you look at the demography of the districts, when you look at the demographics of the district, they're pretty much the same demographics. And that was one thing that we were looking at. Avoid retrogression of minority voting rights. That's a very important criteria. We do not want to go backwards. As I talked about the last time at the meeting, this board has evolved from an at-large district to a single-member district, and we have made progress. There are 7 single-member districts in Tarrant County, and we do not want to retrogress so that minorities will not be able to be elected to this board. That's one of the criteria. That's also under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And we want easily identifiable boundaries. We want to be able to easily identify which boundaries there are. How you do that? You want to make sure that you come up to a lake. You want a major street. You want a different where the neighborhood ends. You don't want to split the neighborhood. You want somewhere where you know when you leave District 1, you're moving into District 2, or you leave District 5, you're moving to District 6. Preserve incumbent constituents relations. All that means simply is that we want it to end up so that the person who is representing that district now has a district in the future. We do not want to come up with a process where incumbents are put out of their district. That's an important criteria. Maintain communities of interest and keep neighborhoods together. And that was a question asked, how do you determine communities of interest? It's difficult to define. Some of the defining that we have used, one lawsuit that I was involved in, the way we define communities of interest, we said typically means that district lines should be drawn not to dilute population or communities with common interests. Consideration should be given to social, cultural, ethnic, economics, characters that the community maintains. That is one of the communities of interest that we have worked on together. Keep neighborhoods together. You don't want to split. As right now we have Riverside and different areas that are in the district. We want to maintain those in the districts that they're in. We do not want to split those districts. Preserving the single-member districts guidelines as present as possible. One of the goals is to keep what has been approved by the Justice Department before. And we know that we have maintained this in an area where the law has indicated that we could, because it's been approved by the Justice Department before. Even though now we no longer submit our plans to the Justice Department. We're not required to. However, we still want to make certain that if we're ever able to have to submit them to the Justice Department, they will be approved. avoid splitting county election precincts when possible. That's been one of the goals. I think 10 years ago, we maybe split one, at most two. We want to avoid splitting election precincts. Our election precincts are in place now. They have been approved and put in place by the County Commissioners Court for the county. They were in place for the primary election that just had in March 1st. So we have those already in place for whole. It is not required for us to. We can split some precincts if that's what we want to do. However, we want to try to maintain the possibility that we don't split the precincts. So that's the criteria that we want to use. That's the criteria we recommend for the board. Lisa, do you have any comment on that?
Do you want to unpack specifically the criteria, starting with the first one, the near equal population, the requirements under the U.S. Constitution and Texas law?
Right. Yeah, the U.S. Constitution, the near equal population is that for a time in this country, there was not equal population. There was not one man, one vote. That was not determined until the 60s, basically. Before then, you might have had one district with 8,000 people, and you had another district with 100,000 folks. However, there was cases brought before the Supreme Court where that came into play, that now you have to have, everything must be within a 10%, that you cannot no longer have unequal population. So avoid overpopulation and underpopulation district. Exact equality of population is not required, like I explained before. And near equal population is what our goal is. The single member districts must be as nearly as practical of equal population according to the last preceding federal census. I know we keep talking about this over and over, but I'm just going over one more time. This is also a requirement under the Texas Education Code also. Compact and contiguous, we talked about before, easily identifiable. Roads, highways, political compactness versus physical compactness. Political compactness account for other political boundaries, election precincts, and sometimes you want to, we want to make sure that persons know how their districts evolve. Like take District 6, I believe. District 6 has evolved from a district that was one time concentrated mostly on the southeast part of Tarrant County. Now it has evolved into part of southern Tarrant County. And most of the other districts have also done the same thing. And the reason they evolved like that is because of the population. The county has increased its population tremendously over the last 20 years, and yet we only have 7 districts. So therefore, the districts must get larger in order to take in additional folks. And these districts that we're coming up with now will be even larger. They'll have even more people once we talk about that.
I have an observation. My
Yes.
District, when I was elected, went all the way to Keller, for
Right.
example.
That's
It
right.
went like this.
That's right. Right.
Can you imagine me well, anyway, it was, it's, and so now it's compact over towards, I'm District 7. So
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
Right. Right.
Mr. Gaines,
Yes.
I thank you for that comment, Mr. Greenhill. I was going to ask you, is there and maybe this is a Carol question, is there a ratio of the trustee to voting population or to population ratio that we need to meet that would somehow, once we exceed that, it triggers another district or anything like that?
No, there is no.
There is no? Okay.
There's no law, obviously. So no, the
Okay.
answer would be no.
Okay, thank you.
Under the education code, you can either be 7 or 9 single member districts, and you could go up to 9, but that's done either by a petition done by constituents or by board resolution, but it's not triggered by a population increase or by the redistricting process.
Okay.
But 7 and 9 are the two options.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. McBride, would you move on to 11, please?
Sure. So the criteria regarding avoiding vote dilution or retrogression of minority voting rights, just wanted to unpack that a little bit. I know we talked about it the last time we were together, but we were going through a lot, and I just want to make sure that our obligations with respect to this particular criteria are clear. The Voting Rights Act has 2 provisions, Section 2, which allows private citizens to file a lawsuit on the basis of vote dilution, and Section 5, which formerly required jurisdictions that were covered by the Voting Rights Act, Section 5, to pre-clear any change in voting or to their electoral system to make sure there was no vote dilution or retrogression of minority rights. We no longer have to pre-clear what we do before we enact it, but we're still subject after we enact a redistricting plan to a potential Section 2 lawsuit by an individual that believes that their vote is diluted or there's been retrogression of minority rights under the plan. And what that is meaning that the voting strength of a group that is in the majority of the citizen voting population has been reduced under the plan. So that's why we look at the citizen voting age population under the benchmark plan, which is your 2010 plan, and then we examine it in comparison to what that citizen voting age population is under the proposed plan. And if it has significantly reduced, that is considered retrogression or vote dilution. If it is the same or greater, it is assumed that that group will be able to exercise the same type of voting strength that it had under the benchmark plan that was previously pre-cleared or approved. So that is kind of what the avoiding of retrogression or minority voting rights is. Section 2 itself prohibits any voting qualification, prerequisite, standard, or procedure that results in the denial or abridgment of a citizen's right to vote on the basis of race, color, or status in a minority group or language minority group. The key question under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is, does, in our case, it could be any electoral change, but in our case, does our redistricting map have the effect of reducing the opportunity of members of a protected minority group to participate in the electoral process? And again, with respect to a redistricting plan, you always compare the proposed plan to what the voting strength was under the benchmark plan, which is the plan that was approved in the previous decade. Section 2 does not require intent. It doesn't matter either the malintent or good intent of the governing body that adopts the plan. What matters is the effect on the minority population. So this is not an intent statute. This is an effect or impact statute. And so there are 2 types of challenges that can be brought to a redistricting map. The first one is that you have colloquially cracked a minority population, meaning that you have fragmented it in numbers less than they would need to exercise the majority in a particular single member district. So it was possible to put 50% or more of a particular minority group on the basis of citizen voting age population in one single member district. And in fact, perhaps we did that under the previous plan, but under the new plan, we've dispersed that population across 2 or more single member districts, such that population no longer has the same voting strength as it did have when it was all concentrated in one single member district. So that's one type of challenge, is have we cracked populations under the proposed map. And then the second challenge is packing, which is the inverse, is have we placed minorities so concentrated in a single member district that we place them in that single member district in numbers far greater than what they would need in order to elect a representative of their choice, such that they are not going to have influence had they been placed in another single member district, a subset of them been placed in another single member district. So cracking is dispersing to the detriment of a minority population, and packing is over concentrating in one single member district to the detriment of the minority population when you look at it in comparison to the benchmark map. So those are the two types of challenges. And in drawing a new map, that's what we're trying to observe. So we're trying to keep those ratios, those citizen voting age population under the proposed map, where we have concentrations of minority groups roughly the same, unless it's explained by natural residential housing patterns. So the Voting Rights Act requires us to consider things like race and nationality specifically, and make sure that voting strength on the basis of race or nationality is not reduced, or there's not retrogression. So we have that, but we're sort of caught between two laws that we have to do a delicate balance, because the Constitution, the Equal Protection Clause, limits the way we can consider race. In a particular 1993 Supreme Court case, Shaw versus Reno, says that with respect to a redistricting plan, we can't consider race and nationality and other protected characteristics more broadly than is needed to rectify a specific violation. So this is what's called strict scrutiny. Typically, decisions that are made with race or nationality or even gender in mind receive suspicion by courts. And we can only make those decisions if we do so in a limited way, and we don't provide a remedy any broader than what's needed to correct a perceived wrong. And so that is what the Shaw versus Reno case says, is that under the law, we can consider race, and in fact, we have to address the important rights under the Voting Rights Act, but that can't be the sole consideration. You have to consider it in the context of other objective redistricting map drawing principles, because we cannot create a remedy with respect to voting rights for a minority system that is broader than the actual violation. So we have the Voting Rights Act, which is a compelling governmental interest that we're trying to address, but our process of addressing that has to be very narrowly tailored. And the Voting Rights Act tells us what's narrowly tailored: avoid retrogression. Look at the benchmark and look at your new map and see whether you have retrogressed in terms of your numbers in comparison to that benchmark map. Other than that, we don't consider race, and in fact, we consider these other map drawing principles. And so that's what the next couple of slides. And you may have heard the term gerrymander. Typically, gerrymander is used with respect to considering race in a redistricting map, but really gerrymandering means drawing districts based on one criteria and not any other. So it can be, a district can be gerrymandered on the basis of population. A district could be gerrymandered on the basis of Republican or Democrat. But typically in the context of Voting Rights Act, when people mention the word gerrymandered, what they're talking about is on the basis of race or national origin. And what Shaw versus Reno says is that race can be a consideration to satisfy the requirements of the Voting Rights Act, but it can't be the only consideration that you use in drawing your map. And so that's why we always say adopt several redistricting principles, one of which is complying with the Voting Rights Act, but others involve other components of state law, as well as practical things like using natural boundaries, physical compactness, contiguity, keeping communities together. And that keeps your districts more compact and not having irregular shapes, because you are not just having one sole consideration, which might tend to make a district have arms and legs spanning across the system. Districts where several considerations are taken into account tend to be more geometric, more curved. We don't have to have perfect rectangles or squares, but what we want to avoid is having single member districts where you can tell just by looking at them and their curvature and their elongated, arms and legs that spiral off the main body of a single member district, that only one factor was taken into consideration. So one of the benefits of having multiple factors that you use as map drawing principles is it helps with the shapes of your single member districts. They tend to be more compact as a result of those multiple considerations and more geometric. So there are some additional criteria that we talked to you about: preserving incumbent constituency relations. Jesse talked to you a little bit about what that means, not drawing a current trustee out of their single member district. As you know, under state law, in order to represent a single member district, a trustee must reside within that single member district. And when a trustee ceases to reside within that single member district, they vacate. And your state law says that redistricting is not an excuse. So the fact that you've redistricted, if you no longer reside within your single member district, you have vacated it. So that's why it's important to adopt as one of your redistricting principles that we will not draw a map that draws a trustee out of their single member district. And then the last couple of criteria that we talked about were maintaining neighborhoods and communities of interest and preserving existing boundaries. And Jesse really gave a good overview of those two criteria in his introduction. I want to reiterate again that what a neighborhood is and what is a community of interest is not defined in case law. Courts allow the jurisdiction and their communities to define what a neighborhood is and what a community is. And based on that definition, then to use that definition in determining individuals that should stay together in one single member district as opposed to being split across two single member districts. And then, of course, as Jesse mentioned, the benefit of preserving your existing boundaries and only making changes to those boundaries to the extent that you have to balance population, to not split a county's precinct, to comply with the 10% rule, or to comply with the Voting Rights Act, is that prior plan has been approved by the Department of Justice, that it is a workable, approvable plan. And so we like to not reinvent the wheel in redistricting process. We start with the benchmark plan that has received the green light from the Department of Justice, and we make tweaks to it to the extent necessary to comply with these other state and federal laws. And so those are the 9 criteria that we're proposing the board adopt, kind of unpacked a little bit more than we were able to do at the last presentation. Are there any questions from board members regarding those 9 criteria?
No, I think anyone have any questions, comments? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think go ahead.
Right,
Mr.
I just wanted to
Gaines.
touch a little on the Shaw versus Reno. Most of you, we went over it a little fast, but Shaw versus Reno was one of the cases that we took to the Supreme Court in 2018. I was involved in the redistricting for the state legislature, and that's where that case came out of Tarrant County. The only decision that came out of the Supreme Court in 2018 dealing with our redistricting for Tarrant County is that they found a Shaw violation that we had made in creating District 100, which was a state representative district, where we had placed one precinct in the district and the state opposed it, and we were unsuccessful at the Supreme Court, and we had to wait till the next session of the state legislature in order to make the changes. So that is something that is real, and the criteria that we're proposing will help us alleviate those kind of potential problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McBride, and thank you, Mr. Gaines. We appreciate it. This was very helpful. And unless anyone else has any questions, Carol, I think we have a resolution, right? Thank you.
If you'll look in your packet, trustees, there is a resolution resolution content deals with adopting the timeline and the criteria.
Does it need to be read, or can
It
we
does
just?
not, you may make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Okay,
Second.
motioned by Mr. Greenhill and second by Mr. Kine. Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion
Thank
carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Have a good evening.
You
Okay, we'll move on to approval of monthly board meeting minutes of February 17th, 2022. Were there any questions or comments on that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Greenhill, second
Second.
by Dr. Morrison. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Trustee activities, we'll go ahead and, we have a few trustee activities we wanted to report on. Who wants to start?
I'll go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Greenhill?
Well, back in the day, I came to visit the Trinity Campus, and I happened, when I was walking out, I saw some students from Abilene School District in Houston, Texas, and they were making a Trinity campus tour, and I just thought that was a neat thing. They were visiting Fort Worth as a part of Business Professionals of America State Conference, which was held in our conference center on March 2 to the 6th. Mr. Tristan Brooks from TR Student Activities coordinated the Abilene ISD administrators to provide the tour experience. It was very nice. I just was excited that the students were able to take a tour. And then I introduced Shannon to Benton Canny. In Benton Canny, I used to practice law with him, but he's now the CEO of Diamondback Industries. And I talked to him. He lives in my neighborhood, and he said, well, we need to have some help in Diamondback Industries. They make complicated materials for oil and gas drilling, particularly kinds that explode. So it's kind of an interesting, the TCC representatives visited Diamondback for a tour and to establish the next steps of how TCC can assist them in both now and the future. The TCC representatives included Dr. Shannon, Dr. Shannon Yogodo, Sophie George, and Irene Kodra, and me. Check you later. Thank you. Pardon my pronunciation.
Yeah,
I
that
didn't
was
practice that.
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Good evening. It's my pleasure today to, during Women's History Month, to bring attention to the name of the room that we meet. It's the May Owen Center. And I would encourage each of you to research this great lady who is Dr. May Owen, and who was a history maker in her own right in terms of her medical career as a pathologist, but she also made great history as a philanthropist. And we were seatmates and colleagues during our service on this board, and I want to use this opportunity to just bring a little bit of attention to her and to say that she's one of the reasons that Tarrant County College District has been a representative governmental body, being the only governmental body that from its inception included, had gender, racial, and diversity equity. So we're happy to carry on that tradition not only on the board, but I'm hoping throughout the district. And at least twice over these past years, the majority of the board members have been female, as is now. We have 4 women members of the board. That's happened at least one time before. And I just thought that was a nice thing to highlight during Women's History Month. Now, Another thing I want to share is that on May 12th of 2020, when the graduates from the SMU Diedman School of Law walk across the stage, a TCC graduate will make history. And that would be Ms. Haley Taylor Schlitz, who graduated from TCC with an associate's degree and Texas Women's University with a bachelor's degree at 16, and on May 12th of 2022 will graduate with her law degree. This will make her the youngest woman and the youngest African American in the history of the United States to ever graduate from law school. I've had the pleasure of meeting her, of working with her on a couple of community events, one having been North Texas High School Voter Registration Day. She is a delightful young woman, very bright and respectful. I'm so happy to share her story. And one of the interesting things that in her story that she said was that having a counselor who believes in you and actually helps you find a way to reach your dreams is so important. And when she says that he never once told me what I couldn't do, he didn't project any thoughts that he might have had about me only being 13. He listened. He answered the questions that my parents and I had, and he was always available, and he made college a better experience. That was Mr. Baugh, B-A-U-G-H, who's the counselor on Northwest Campus. And what a difference that counselor made. One of many people who made a difference in this young woman's life. But it is so exciting that Tarrant County College reaches another history-making point as being a part of the journey for this young woman along her way to success. So I want to thank all of the people at TCC who helped not only this student, but who every day help many students to reach their dreams, who first recognize that the dreams of our students are important and make the extra effort to not be a barrier, but to be a helping to those dreams. Thank you.
Did she ever tell you what her ambition is as a lawyer, or does she want to be a lawyer? Does she want to practice law, or does she want to do something else? Did she ever convey that idea to you?
Well, she is a lawyer. She's going to be a lawyer.
Well, yes.
And she
but
will
does she
practice
wanna-
it in many ways. Right now, she's already I would say an advocate.
Okay.
But I think it'll be that we should say, in the words of Coach Prime, get your popcorn ready. She's gonna have a
that's
very
right. No, I'm just
exciting
wondering
career.
if she's being recruited by law firms yet or anything. Well, okay.
I don't know that. I haven't talked with her
Okay.
recently.
Okay.
More about it. Thank you, Dr. Morrison. Thank you for recognizing Dr. May Owen as well. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Mr. Barr?
Dr. Morrison has talked about a remarkable young lady, and it's my privilege this evening to tell the board about a TCC student who's also a remarkable young lady. Megan Stifler is a student at Trent County College Northeast Campus, and she has been named a 2022 Coca-Cola Academic Team Bronze Scholar. She's going to receive a $1,000 scholarship to support her education, and she is a biology major at TCC Northeast, and she plans, this proves she has very good judgment, she plans to attend Texas Christian University in the fall to continue her STEM education, and her desire is to attend medical school and become a physician. Remarkable young lady, another example of TCC helping somebody get a great start on what will be a remarkable career.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Mr. Kine? Thank you.
Well, I wanted to highlight some of the wonderful partnerships that our school districts have with TCC, starting with attending the Arlington ISD Education Foundation Dream Makers Banquet on February 28th. This banquet is an annual celebration that recognizes teachers across Arlington ISD who approach education with creativity and innovation. And the way that they do that at this particular event is through the award of over $100,000 of grant dollars, which is just amazing. And they actually bring the recipients, and you get to see them via video and in real time. It's very much like an Oprah special. We were able to attend this at the Southeast campus, and not only do they have this beautiful facility that they allow us to use every year, but we get to see the mixology students in action and get to benefit from their skills. So thank you for that. A highlight of this program, if you look off to the left, is that every single elementary school picks a 4th grade student to design a plate. And there is a plate auction where the money raised during that plate auction goes directly back into that Dream Makers Fund. So my good friend Justin Chapa, who is an AISD trustee there, was able to successfully win the plate from Corey Academy. And I have a plate that matched my kitchen perfectly from South Davis Elementary School. So you start to collect your plates over the years. It's a great, great event. Last week, I was absolutely thrilled to be able to be on hand in Houston as the Texas Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution honored Ms. Opal Lee, Fort Worth's own, with the DAR Medal of Honor, which is their highest award. She was honored for her contributions towards establishing the Juneteenth National Independence Day, and she spoke for at least 30 minutes. We would have listened to her for 2 hours, just sharing all of her experiences and her stories of life. And this group of over 1,000 attendees really took away from all of this that it's so important to advocate for the truth. And I can remember very well how people were repeating over and over after this event ended her quote about, remember that there is no one who is free unless everyone is free. So she left a big impact. She asked that I take a selfie with her and send it to Dr. Morrison, which I did. So it was a great kind of convergence of just being really proud to be from Tarrant County while we were in Houston and celebrate her.
Thank you.
And then finally, just yesterday, very early in the morning, I don't normally get up this early, but at 6:15 in the morning, the city of Arlington convened a community prayer breakfast from people all over the city where they actually prayed over leaders, first responders, and very specifically educators in all of Arlington and Tarrant County's educational institutions. So when people are willing to pray over us, I will take it.
Yes, that's right.
The thing that I really took away from this event, in addition to just, everybody giving their positive vibes, was that every single person that I came into contact with yesterday morning wanted to share with me all of the great things that they saw that were happening at Tarrant County College, how supportive they were of the institution, and how proud they are of this board. So I just wanted to share all of that with you and wanted to let you know that I'm really proud of being a member of this board and being a part of this team with all of you. And then the last thing I have to share is everybody at your place should have this wonderful brochure that Mr. Gates and his team have put together. It's an impact statement brochure, so basically talking points, as we have requested as board members and as leaders of the institution. Mr. Gates and his team will be updating this regularly, but this is a great resource for us to be able to take with us to be able to answer kind of high-level questions or important things that are happening at Tarrant County College.
Great.
To be able to talk about just really the impact that we're making in our community. So thank you, Reg and team. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. That is your, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for representing us out in the district, and thank you for the comments. TCC is present throughout the community, and we continue to be far-reaching as far as being a foundation for a lot of good leaders. Dr. Morrison talked about some, and also Mr. Greenhill and Mr. Barr and Ms. DeKine. And I want to recognize just a few more folks. In March, during Women's History Month, there were some speakers there through the President Speakers Series, through TCC Connect, and there's some photos of some of the participants, but one in particular reached out to let me know that she was just thrilled to participate, and this is Ariela Martinez, and she currently is the Assistant Director of Graduate Recruitment and Admission at TCU, the MG, the Neely School of Business. And Ariela attended at Tarrant County College, and she sent me a message afterwards that she was honored to be included and to give back to the efforts and people of Tarrant County College, the place where much of my leadership started. She said that she certainly wouldn't be where she is today without all of those who have poured into her and supported her and helped her flourish and become who she is today. She currently is a trustee at Castleberry ISD, and I believe she's also working on her doctorate right now. So she's very, very thankful for all the work. And so I want to recognize each and every one of you that have played a role in helping Ariela. And these are the other participants. And there's Dr. Morales as well. So thank you for that, Dr. Morales. Also want to recognize the 47th Annual DACHA State Conference was held in Fort Worth. The DACHA is Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, and it is a professional association committed to the improvement of educational and employment opportunities for Chicanos in higher education. And our own Cristina Palacios, who's the coordinator of student financial aid services from Trinity River Campus, received the 2022 Distinguished Community College Staff Award. And so it recognizes folks that have superior levels of professionalism and accomplishment in the areas of initiative, productivity, critical thinking skills, effectiveness, and customer service skills at the community college system. So we want to congratulate Cristina Palacios. And also, let's see, a featured artist for the event was our own Arturo Martinez, who's the Director of Creative Services. He was selected as this year's featured artist, where he showcased some work and pop-up exhibits, in particular the commemorative poster called Mujer Latina, and there he is in front of that. Dr. Morales, president of TCC Connect, was a CLDI faculty for Career and Leadership Development Institute, and also Freddie Franco from Campus Support, a technician, served on the conference committee, and TCC was a platinum sponsor for this year's conference. And so there was plenty of representation from the college, and we want to thank everyone that was involved. And finally, I just want to remind everyone that, it's particularly the students that are listening, that TCC students can save on gas by riding the Trinity Metro. Thank you for this. I think, Suzanne, you and your group put this together, so thank you. Just reminding you that with gas prices on the rise, that Tarrant County College students may be looking for ways to save money on their commute. So go on to the TCC website and Trinity Metro with your Easy Ride Pass. You can ride the bus, the train, and it's a great way to save some money. So just want to remind you of that. Okay, any other reports? Okay, we'll go ahead and go on to consideration and approval of the consent agenda. These items have been discussed during our work session. Actually, all of this agenda has been reviewed, and these items as well. So we may go through some of these rather quickly for those that you are watching. So for consideration and approval of the consent agenda, again, we've dedicated time and discussion to these topics. So I just need a motion and a second so that we can approve these as presented.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Kine.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barr. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Consideration and approval of individual action items. We have 5A, consideration and approval of a request to increase the previously approved spending authority for Dell computer of $750,000 to a limit of $1,700,000 not to exceed. Mr. Pacheco. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good
So
evening.
this is the increase to $1.7 million from the one we had during FY22 budget of $750,000. We had made a mistake at the time to not do the $1.7 million increase in spend. This is already budgeted. This is the growth that we've had over the last 2 years due to COVID and the expansion of our VDI capabilities across this district and for our students.
Okay, any questions? I know we talked about this in depth, but any questions? If not, otherwise we'll entertain a motion. Move approval from
Second.
Mr. Barr, second by Mr. Greenhill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 5B, consideration and approval of the 5-year CISCO Network Enterprise Agreement with General Datatech L.P. GDT in the amount of $2,477,361.12.
As we discussed last week, we have literally thousands of CISCO devices, and what we're going with this is combining it into an enterprise license that will save us $930,000 over the next 5 years.
That's great. And it's $495,500, correct, annually, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. No question, any questions for Mr. Pacheco?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Greenhill made a motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barr. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Consideration and approval of a request to increase the previously approved spending authority with Alpha Business Images of $1 million to a limit of $1,500,000 not to exceed for media advertising placements. Mr. Gates.
Yes, you recall week before last, we talked about this in some detail. This was approved in the budget, and we're now asking for permission to spend in the form of a blanket purchase order for media placements.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Gates? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved from Dr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barr. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's see. 5D, that is consideration and approval of statement of work for Intelligent Buildings LLC for design guidance supporting the district-wide smart building program in the amount of $138,600. Ms. Alanis.
Yes, so last year, the board asked us to engage Intelligent Buildings to help the college identify use cases where we could apply technology to improve the efficiency of our physical spaces as well as the user experience in those spaces. They completed that work. This is the second and we believe final phase of our engagement with them that will help us fine-tune the design specifications and develop actual plans and budget estimates and vendors and so on for the implementation of those use cases.
Great. Any questions or clarifications? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
By Mr. Kine.
Second.
Second by Mr. Greenhill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's see, we'll go to 5E. Consideration and approval of revisions to DED local. Let's see, let me read this. Which one do I need to be reading, Mr. Gates? This here or this one here? Okay. Consideration and approval of amendments to board policies, DBA
No,
local.
no, no.
Is that the one?
That's the next one.
That's the next one.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, 5E, we're talking about the consideration approval of the benefits, correct? Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Okay, I'm just checking to see who's paying attention.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Consideration and approval of revisions to DED local compensation and benefits holidays to memorialize holidays observed. Add Juneteenth, National Independence Day as an observed holiday and memorialize scheduled breaks. Ms. Alanis.
Yes, and it was nice to see Ms. Opal Lee honored tonight here in Fort Worth, and this is our opportunity to acknowledge the work that she's done to establish Juneteenth as a national holiday. And thank you to Dr. Morrison also that we've amended the title to reflect one of the common references to the holiday. So this will update our policies for both this as well as the 4th of July going forward.
Great. And
Thank
this
you.
would be effective next year, I think you said, is that correct?
We'll start observing the federally observed holiday next year in 2023, but starting this year, the 4th of July will be a holiday because it's on an open day of the college.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Dr. Morrison,
Second?
second by Mr. Greenhill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So 5F, do I read this one?
I would read the one as it was published with your agenda, and then I'll make a suggestion around a motion to correct the error.
Okay, so it's consideration and approval of amendments to local board policies DBA, DC, DEA, DJ, DK, and DJK, that's what I have, related to employment practices, elimination of DD, personnel positions, and GB, public complaints and hearings. Ms. Solanese.
Yes, and so I emailed you earlier this week to let you know that we actually had an error in the title with that DJK local. It does not exist, and we had intended it to be DLC. And so we would ask that you would approve these policy amendments with language that says to amend, to remove those references, and we will bring those back to you next month.
Okay, so unless anyone has any questions or comments, okay, Mr. Barr
Second.
makes the motion,
Second.
and second by Dr. Morrison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, Ms. Solanese, we'll go into the monthly financial report. 6A, the monthly financial report for February 2022.
Yes, you have the full report in your notebooks, and I'll just highlight that we've collected about 85% of our revenue for the year. This is typical based on the timing of those receipts and our tax receipts, which is the large portion of our revenue. We are still running about $6 million behind where we were last year with tuition, and we'll continue to keep an eye on that and discuss it with the board as we focus on enrollment. The other thing I'll mention is that we're just under 50% for our expenditures, which is on track with what our typical spending patterns would be.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Solanese? Okay. The investment report,
yes.
Yes.
So you'll see that we've got the new format, again, that was proposed by PFM with the changes in our investment portfolio. We are still in the process of transitioning, as you were, they shared with you last month. You'll continue to see that our portfolio is moving more into investments that have more than a year maturity, and we'll see those improvements. We're going to work with them over the course of the next month or two as well to provide a more meaningful summary so that you can see how that transition is actually resulting in some changes.
Any questions, or do you have a question, clarification? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Solanese. Item 7, Acting Chancellor's Report. Dr. Elva LeBlanc.
Thank you. First is Susan Alanese, so just stay up there. She will be giving some information that's good news for it.
Yes, you have an informational memo in your report, and this is sort of a good news story. I bring to you lots of tax increment reinvestment zones where we're beginning our commitment or extending our commitment. This is one of those situations where our commitment is actually coming to a close, and that district has performed as intended. Those of you who are familiar with Hometown in North Richland Hills, that's the area that's envisioned. So just as a bit of a refresher, back when this was originally contemplated, they had set aside $8.2 million for a conference center. In 2015, there was consideration about TCC participating in that to have a visual, technical, and performing arts center. That did not emerge as a priority in terms of the capital program, and certainly the $8.2 million would be a fraction of what would be required for a facility of that size. So in working with the board, we notified them that we were no longer pursuing that, and so all of the projects are complete in this TERS. We did ask to suspend our participation or cap it starting last year, so we didn't make this year's contributions, which is consistent with the other taxing entities and when their contributions ended as well. And they have more money than they need to pay off the debt associated with the program. They're in the process of accomplishing that now. And upon the conclusion of that, they will actually reimburse to the district over $2.2 million of proceeds that they are holding that we had contributed that are no longer necessary. They, on a pro rata basis, distribute the remaining funds back to us. In addition, going forward, we will no longer be contributing $800,000 and growing per year. So again, this was an effective economic development incentive to grow our tax base, and we're now reaping the rewards of that.
Any questions, clarifications? Okay.
Next is transmittal of annual racial profiling report with Mr. Sean Williams.
President Ayala, Acting Chancellor LeBlanc, members of the board. In 2011, House Bill 3389 required each law enforcement agency that routinely conducts vehicle stops as part of their duties to compile information on public contacts that are made and present that information to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement and the governing body of their police agency. Texas law defines racial profiling as a law enforcement initiated action based on the individual's race, ethnicity, or national origin rather than on the individual's behavior or on information identifying the individual as having engaged in some type of criminal activity. The report you received in your packets meets the information requirements that our agency is obligated to collect, report, and present to you for your information, and shows that the Tarrant County College District Police Department is in full compliance with the Texas racial profiling law.
Thank you.
Any
Does anyone
questions?
have any questions or comments? Thank you for the work that you're doing. Keep everybody safe. We certainly do appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief. So next, I'm happy to report on the promotion in rank. We always connect faculty excellence to student success, and faculty have met the criteria for promotion in rank, including excellent work with our students. So it's an information piece, and you have that list in your packet. So I'm very happy to report that piece. And I believe next one again is Susan Alanis.
This is just to circle back on the authority that you provided to the Chancellor in the fall to do the land swap with Hillwood up adjacent to our Alliance campus, and we have concluded that transaction and just wanted you to be aware.
Yes, more good news. Right. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. So next is informational TCC paid media presence, and that's Reginald.
And I'll be brief. I think as we talked a week before last, it was about keeping the board more abreast of what we're doing by way of media placements and things like that. So the initial start of that would be a piece like this we'll do every month in your notebooks, so you'll see where we're placed for that particular month. And then we'll provide you information, support things, so when we're doing major projects. So you see some pieces that we plan to use for the upcoming Main Street Art Festival, which is one of our larger investment events by way of sponsorships, and it's a high-traffic event for us. So we'll just start talking to you more and more about those things so that as you move around in the community, you can speak to those things as well.
That event is upcoming, right?
Yeah, April 8th, 7th through the 10th.
7th through the 10th. That's a great location that we have. We have 2 locations now. Okay. If anybody's interested in, do you need volunteers or anything like that? Are you good? All set. Okay. You need more volunteers. Okay. Okay, great.
I think Suzanne
I was
needs to
gonna
come
say,
and
I was
ask
gonna-
for help.
Yeah, I was going to say, can Suzanne come up for a moment, Miss Dr. Law, please?
Absolutely,
You don't mind?
No. You want to talk about Main Street? Or-
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this will be our, Main Street, of course, was paused for, I think, 3 years.
Yes.
We've not been there since 2019. But this will be technically, I think, our 8th year to be a sponsor. Our sponsorship has grown over the years. Historically, we always had our main booth at 4th and Main, right in front of the bank, the Worthington Bank. Huge high traffic zone. We started using clickers to track how many individual conversations we had over the 4-day weekend. In 2019, it was 11,000. So that's 11,000 people interacting with our volunteers, going on the iPad to learn more about TCC. Historically, we always had the northernmost end at First and Weatherford for what was called the Young Person's Art Festival. And that was a 2-day versus the 4-day component of the fair that was heavily trafficked, of course, by children and their participants and their families, but there wasn't a lot of other interactive elements there. So we've shifted this year to what is called a maker zone. We've upped our footprint considerably, so we'll have a huge tent that various other sponsors will use, including Bell Helicopter, Lockheed Martin, the Botanic Gardens, et cetera. And then we'll have an area where, when others aren't using that tent, we'll actually bring in some of our makers, whether we can't bring welding because it's apparently a fire risk, but we're going to bring in other maker type components of our institution so people can see that if you want to be a maker, and we've got a brochure that'll be there as well, come to TCC. So that's going to really anchor the northernmost shrunk opera. They're these big animatronic hands that move to music. We're going to be sitting right in front of our space, and you'll be able to see it all the way from the convention center. So it's going to be a nice draw to us, both at 4th and Main and then at 1st and Weatherford.
That's fantastic.
Very nice.
How many volunteers are usually man all of these?
We've got a really good
locations?
Committee that's putting this together, but
Good.
we anywhere from 60 to 80.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And so, and then also there will be some opportunities for you all as trustees. I'll get you some passes for various things. But it's, for those of you who don't know, it's the 3rd largest art festival in the nation. And as of 2019, gross art sales were in the neighborhood of $5 million. So it's a really prestigious event to be part of.
I'm glad we're part of it.
And it's gotten more expensive every year. So if you want to buy art, you need to save a year in advance. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you for the work that you're doing. This is fantastic. There's always a good presence there.
And I think our people have a lot of fun too.
They do,
I mean,
yeah.
we this year's they've got a tie-dye T-shirt that's TCC proud, and they like being there. So it's nice to. I think it's good for everyone to get the chance to go step outside and really represent.
Absolutely.
So we look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want a T-shirt, Mr. Rand?
Yes,
Thank you so much.
We'll
Suzanne.
we're finding volunteers around this table that may need a T-shirt.
I think you all may be getting T-shirts and goodie bags anyway,
Yeah.
but I'll make note. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, I'm so happy to see our participation. Years ago, I always took my children. Jonathan always got lost and ended up in the refreshment booth with the police officers while I was walking around frantically looking for him. He was drinking ice cold drinks. But I'm so happy that TCC has a wonderful presence there. Thank you for making that a reality. It's just a wonderful opportunity for us to interact with the community. Thank you. And it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yes. Thank you for that. So you have a list of accolades from the different campuses, and we could probably write a book every month because so much is going on. And you heard about a lot of exciting events on the Southeast Campus and TCC Connect. I also want to mention that on February 18, we had a Commissioner Roy Brooks plaque dedication ceremony on South Campus, and that was very nice. I thought it would be a few people, and it was much more than that. The exciting piece about that celebration is his commitment to education, and then all the students that have benefited from his contributions. And other folks wanted to speak up and talk about how TCC impacted them. So that was a very nice event. Dan and his staff did a great job of organizing it, and so thank you for that. Also, on the Northwest Campus, I had the opportunity to attend Celebrating Strides. That had to be moved because the ice storm, and it wasn't right when it was scheduled. So it was moved to a Friday, and people there were able to pivot. What was amazing to me is that you have scaffolding everywhere, and they still managed to put balloons all over and make it very festive and people had a very nice time. So that was very good. But those are examples of the many things that the campuses do on behalf of the community, the students. Everyone benefits from it. So it's very, very nice. So I wanted to mention that. In terms of recent activities, I want to begin by thanking the board again for your confidence in my ability to lead this great institution. I have a long history here, and I love this college, and I will work very, very hard for the students and for you. And I appreciate that each board member connects the dots between all the good work that's happening and our student success. That's really very, very exciting for me to hear from you. So thank you for that. I have met with really all of you around this table, and I still need to meet with a couple more board members. And I appreciate the time that you're taking to guide me and educate me and give me your ideas. So that's much appreciated. I've also met with external partners and community folks, and that's been very productive as well. At the end of the day, I want to say that people continue to work very, very hard for Tarrant County College, and more importantly, supporting the students, and that's what's critical to all of us. In terms of our strategic direction, we will continue with implementation of the 3 goals and 8 principles. Our focus this year and moving forward is the recruitment and retention of students. As we move from ideation to operational, our focus will be the action items under recruitment and retention of students, and that will set the pathway for our budget priorities and other things which we will share with you moving forward. We do have a board retreat scheduled for April 8 and 9, and you will be getting a save the date, and we're developing the agenda so that we can incorporate many of your ideas and at least start the conversation. More importantly, we want to bring everyone together as a team because we will be collaborating on so many fronts. And so you'll have an opportunity to have a conversation with staff and with representation of the Joint Consultation Committee, and it should be very nice. The other is that we want to assure you that we're doing the due diligence on all the operational items such as the ERP, the renovations, everything that we are doing, we check and double check. So be assured that we're being as responsible as possible on every penny that we spend. And again, want to thank you for your support and thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. We appreciate the report and the update. And again, we want to thank everyone here. It's all the work that's doing, preparing things for the agenda, meeting with the students on a daily basis, everyone that's doing the work, because I still feel that one of our strongest assets is our people. So thank each and every one of you for that. So we are going to be going into close.
Can I just make one
Absolutely.
final statement?
Certainly.
I am so proud to see our presidents here today.
Yes, thank you.
I have missed this gathering for a long, we've missed this gathering
Yes, we
for a
have.
long time. And I'm so glad to see all of them.
Thank you.
And thank you for the hard work that you all are doing. We're very proud of you.
Thank you for bringing
Yeah, I
that up,
just wanted
Mr.
to make
Greenhill.
sure that-
We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Before we go into closed session, the board will conduct a closed session as authorized by Section 551 of the Texas Government Code in order to seek the advice of its attorneys, deliberate real property matters, deliberate personnel matters, or to deliberate security devices or security audits. So we will now go ahead and break. Thank you again for coming.
Testing 10. Testing 6. Check, check. Check, check. Check, check. Check.
Okay, the board will now reconvene in open session. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Dr. Morrison and second by Mr. Greenhill. Well, we're all in favor of adjourning? Yes, okay, unless somebody doesn't want to stay a little longer. I don't think so. Have a good afternoon, and our next meeting will be April the 7th, our work session. The 14th, and then April 21st is our meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good,
It's 9:05.
good evening. Good morning.